change this here. Okay, let's try that again. All right, hello, my friends. Ruben Obed here, transmit live, and this is going to be a short video that I want to do regarding Peukerts law. There's a lot of people that have spoken about Peukerts law, and I've never really addressed Peukert's law online, but I'm going to address it today. Okay, if you don't know what Peukert's law is, I'm just going to simplify it, especially when you're talking about lead acid battery chemistry. Peukert's law means that, in essence, when you put a bigger load on a battery, it'll actually give you less runtime than you would think. For example, let's say you have a 100 amp hour battery, and let's just say you have a 5 amp load on that battery. So let's say it takes 10 hours at 5 amps, right? You're using, let's say, a fan that draws 5 amps, and it reaches 50% in about 10 hours. Okay, so you figure, okay, then battery's 100 amp hours, running the fan, ran for 10 hours at 5 amps. So you would think that then if I add another fan, it'll give me 5 hours runtime, right? Well, no, the mathematics is wrong. Peukert's law states that if you have, if you're running more, let's say you're running 2 fans, you're not going to get half of what you get if you were running 1 fan. You see what I'm saying? So that that 100 amp hour battery with 1 fan will last you 10 hours. With 2 fans, it won't last you 5 hours. It'll be less. That's Peukert's law, just to kind of explain it simply. So, therefore, when I built my solar system, I took the Peukert's law in mind, and I didn't just make one battery bank to run everything, because I kept that in mind. Lead acid batteries, they suffer from voltage sag, and they suffer from this whole Peukert's law thing. So what did I do? I built my solar system, but it's separate. It's separate. So certain batteries are running certain things, other batteries are running other things, as to mitigate Peukert's law. So that's what I personally did. So personally, right now, my main system is like running my freezer, running some lights. During the day, I'm running everything because there's ample sun. But at night, that's all it's running is the freezer. So the freezer draws like about 14 amps roughly. So I try not to run any more off of the main system, but rather if I have to run something separate, like a fan or something, I'll run it off of my secondary system. You see, because what will happen is that if I start running other things off of the same battery bank, then my amp hours, will actually be less than, a lot less than if I do things separately. So basically, in a nutshell, if you're running lead acid batteries, and everybody now talks about lithium, but lithium's too damn expensive. Most of us can't afford it. I know I can't afford lithium. But lead acid batteries are very good, and they work for solar. I live totally off grid. And I think that if you're kind to the lead acid batteries and you take these tips into consideration, you can mitigate Peukert's law. You can mitigate the whole voltage sag issue with lead acid batteries. I like lead acid batteries. I think they're very predictable, and I've said in other videos that I actually like voltage sag. It sounds kind of crazy, but what ends up happening is this. Ever since I started building my solar system, I noticed, okay, everybody says once you're down to 50%, turn your loads off. And you don't want to take your lead acid batteries lower than 50%. What ends up happening is, because of the voltage sag, a lot of times I'll look at the load on, and I'll see it says, oh, it's at 12 volts. Let me turn everything off. The moment I turn things off, it jumps up to 12.2, 12.3, which means that Because of that, let's call it battery paranoia. Because of that, you tend to be take to treat the batteries a little lighter than you normally would. So I look at the voltage sag and I'm well aware. Okay, I'm hitting 12 volts. Let me turn this off. And if you really come to the analysis of it, at the end of the day, you're like, damn, I only use like 15% of the capacity of my battery bank, or 25%, which is minimal, which will give you a lot of battery life, a lot of battery cycles, because you're not draining down your batteries. So if you oversize your your battery bank, and your solar system, but I'm talking about batteries. If you oversize your batteries, like me, for example, at the end of the night, around 11 o'clock, when I turn off my loads, I will have used about 25% of my entire battery bank capacity at night. So when I'm counting at night from 5:30 on, when the sun goes down, 25%. Now, I have 7 batteries in parallel for my main system. So that means that those batteries, each of them is only getting drawn down about 12%, which is minimal for deep cycle battery. You know what I mean? So, you'll extend the life of your batteries if you're lead acid. So I'm not talking about lithium. I'm not here to talk about AGMs. I'm talking about the cheapest, lead acid batteries. And, I mean, if you follow those rules, make sure every month you check, see that your water levels are fine. Make sure that, that when you do fill up your water levels, make sure your batteries are charged first. Don't make the mistake of putting water into your batteries when the batteries are depleted. Bad idea. You charge them, then you fill them up with distilled water, not filtered water, not tap water, not mineral water. No, distilled water. Okay, it has to be distilled. Distilled water doesn't have minerals and won't cause your batteries to get to short circuit inside. So don't use anything other than distilled water. And that's pretty much it, guys. So Peukerts law. What I would recommend is, if you're gonna run, let's say, let's say you have 2 batteries, right? And you want to run a mini fridge that pulls 4 amps and a fan that pulls 4 amps. You'd be better if you leave the battery for your mini fridge separate and your fan separate, and that way, and it kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it really isn't, because you lose capacity if you're running 2 loads at the same time. You lose capacity. So at 5 amps, that's just my a lot of people are gonna disagree with this. That's how I run my system. I feel that I get more power out of my batteries having a system that is separate. The other issue is that when your system is like divided up, you don't have to run your inverter 24/7. But when you have one system, and some people, they run their whole system through their house mains. Like they're off grid, but they hook up their system to the house mains, and and they live off grid that way. I don't like that way, because it's actually, I think you lose control of things. Like, for example, I have my freezer on a 1,000 watt inverter, but I actually have multiple inverters. So during the day, I have the 3,000 watt inverter on. Why? Because I'm running a lot of stuff. I'm running the studio, vacuum cleaners, everything, all the big loads. But at night, I turn it off, and I'm running just the freezer on a separate inverter, running off of the same battery bank. So, I mean, I understand my system, but what I'm trying to say is, don't put, just to recap, don't put too much of a load on a battery. You know what I'm saying? If you stay, I think that, like, in my personal thing, the sweet spot is 5 amps. For lead acid batteries, to maximize, a nice little load of 5 amps, maybe 6, okay? But when you start putting loads of 8 to 10 amps, you'll notice a big decrease in how long that battery your runtime. Not because you have more loads, but because the whole Peukerts thing. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy. So, I don't know. This is just a little tip. If you got any questions, feel free to write to me, and I'll elaborate a little bit more on this. But yeah, man, lead acid batteries are good. I mean, you do searches for off grid, uh, online. All you see now is lithium, AGM, and lithium. You know what I mean? There are other, lead acid batteries are good. They're cheap. They've been around for 100 years. They're simple. They have their little bugs. Peukerts law, voltage sag. Hey, sometimes they off gas. Let me tell you, I have my lead acid batteries like inside my house, interior. They don't off gas. Why? Because I don't pull too much from them, and at the rate that I charge is actually relatively slow. Um, my entire all my batteries are charged after like 4 hours. You know, and the thing for people who don't know, if you have a battery bank, and let's say your battery bank is 400 amp hour battery bank, you should charge within 10 to 15%. You could do 20%. Anything higher than that is going to cause that off gassing. So my system is about maybe 600 amp hours, and the highest that I've seen the solar panels put out is like maybe 38 amps, 40 amps, which is way below the capacity. So I've never had any problem. I mean, most of the time, monthly I check the water level hasn't evaporated either because I'm charging it slowly. You know what I mean? So I mean, those are just a little tip. So charge slowly. When you see even when you have your loads on and it says 12.0 or 11.9, turn your loads off. Just turn them off, and you're safe. You're still not at 50% because the moment you turn your loads off, you're gonna notice 12 point. It's gonna jump up to 12.2. So you're treating your batteries really kindly. Um, if you have them indoors, which a lot of people don't recommend, but if you have them indoors, keep them in a ventilated area. Um, like my batteries, since I take so, very good care of them, they're already like almost 5 years old. And I've never seen on the post any crud, any acid residue, no sulfation or nothing. Um, it's because you take care of them. Heat also messes up your battery. So even if you build a battery box and you have them outside, the heat, a lot of people don't ventilate those boxes either. So I mean, take all things to be taken into consideration. You know, um, lead acid. The bad thing with having lead acid batteries like outside in a battery box is that if anything happens, you don't really know because it's like not there. My batteries are like in my face 24/7. So I always check them. I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm going to the bathroom. Sometimes I just put my hand and I touch them, see if none of them is overheating or anything. The smell. There's a distinct smell of sulfur. It smells like an egg fart when the batteries are having an issue. Like if it's lead acid batteries, so that's why I like lead acid batteries. They kind of tell you, they give you little hints. You know what I mean? They give you little hints. So anyway, I hope you guys like this video. If you got any questions, feel free and let me know. And sorry I haven't done any off-grid living videos. I've been so caught up with this whole music stuff, and doing these rap songs and whatnot. Just but I thought this was very important to tell people about it. So try to stay within that 5 amp threshold if you're gonna do more. Somehow, if you could separate your battery bank, it'll work out and you'll actually have more of a capacity. Well, anyway, take care, guys. I hope I explained this properly. I really do. Sometimes I ramble a little bit. So that's it. Take care. God bless. Ruben Obed.